Welcome to season 6, episode 4. And today we're going to talk about how not to diet a female. And this follows through some, well, actually, I think we all get messages from people on Instagram or elsewhere of people forwarding the most horrendous meal plans, that women have been on. And it's not just a big problem here, it's a big problem, I think, worldwide. There are coaches who might not even be qualified, and even worse, who give out these meal plans that are quite frankly criminal. So we thought we would address that today, and kind of, for you as the client, like what red flags to look for. And if you are a coach, I don't know, shame on you. Shame on you, I guess. Oh dear. But yeah, and then Andy, if you want to kick this off, I know you've got a particularly nasty looking diet plan.
Yeah, and it does come from, I think sometimes people look at women and, especially competitors. So the meal plan that I was sent from competitors, she'd been on diet for 5 weeks, her body had barely changed, she felt terrible, had no energy, she was doing 2 hours of cardio a day, and the calories were like, I think pretty much working them out. What would they work them out at? Like 700 calories.
Yeah, they were 700. It was, I think, 84 protein, 54 fats, 12 grams of fat.
Yeah, 54.
Yeah. So it's insane. And then doing 2 hours of cardio on top of that. And then adding in, things like trying to do posing practice. So, the reality is, when you see a client where you just feel sorry for them, and, I think people think that if someone's a competitor, you should just suck it up. But the reality is, you're not going to see a change in physique. Like, literally, I looked at her first photo, looked at a week 5 photo, any difference?
Yeah, there was not much change.
No difference. And you're like, what? No, that's why she ended up, she paid this person, quite a lot of money, really, more than I charge. And then, came to me and I was like, right, well, you're going to have to scrap that, One, it's hard to take on a client like that, and that wouldn't normally do it, wouldn't normally take on a client 5 weeks out from a show or 6 weeks out. It's been on such bad calories because it's hard to do anything with them. But the fact is, I wanted to really do his show. I'd rather them do it in the healthiest way possible than just try and do it themselves or carry on without meal plan.
Yeah.
So
5 more weeks on that.
Yeah, took it on.
Yeah, plus.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's like they took it on for a period. Cramps, to the point where she had to go to hospital. It was like, so first thing I did is had to put in the diet break. But thing is, when you're 6 weeks out of competition, that can't be long enough. In an ideal world, they've put her calories up for a month. So refed her for a 48-hour period, and then luckily, because my calories are like way higher, like 1,500, it was a lot more food for her to eat anyway. So she's feeling a lot better just from having her calories doubled. Yeah. Fats being just under 50 grams of essential fat.
Gosh,
protein up to a proper level. So the reality is, as we know, you just can't keep hammering calories down. You can't expect people to, and this like from week 1 to week 5, the meals were the same. There's no change. Calorie.
That's very.
So it's not like it was a sliding scale. It's like here's the edge of the cliff. I'm now. It's a bit like 300 where he kicks him into the pit. Yeah, so yeah, it's like stabbing from the boot into the dive pit.
Very lazy sort of coach. Also, it's like,
Lazy, the worst kind, honestly.
because if how clearly coach had an idea of what her off season was like, first and foremost. Coach did not care about what foods she was eating, or just how her life is. To just be like, okay, you know what, here 5 weeks, and then you're still sending me progress pictures and there's no change, and I'm keeping you at 700 calories a bit.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, well, one sign of no coach client relationship, and then it's just lazy. Like, just, and I'm guessing cardio just kept going up because
It's 2 hours.
Yeah, well, you can get 2 hours a day.
yeah.
An hour early, an hour later. But it's one of those things where this is one's first show as well.
Mm.
You want to, and this is something I always say, and female competitors, the longer you can prep for, the better.
Yeah.
Gradual. With men, you can even then, a longer prep's better, I think, for the physique. But with women, you got to be so much more careful. Nearly every female competitor should be on like a 20-week prep minimum.
Yeah.
Just to do it really nice. You can put in a couple of diet breaks, some refeeds, and just bring it in nice and slowly because, as we know, the effects of dieting on hormones, especially reducing fats and carbohydrates. Yeah, and then reducing proteins on risk on the general health.
Mm.
Yeah, and I mean, I think even especially if it's your first prep, however long this one was going to be, that lady is nowhere long enough. And yeah, I think, I think you do get down to some pretty you are in going for a competition. Not always, but for a lot of people, that's just how it might get to, because you are going to sacrifice your health at some point to look a certain way. But that's your choice. You can still do it
100%.
the healthiest way you can. And it's taking a long prep. It's starting off it's having a really good off season where you're building up your calories to a really good level, so that by the time you get to go into a deficit, you can diet off the highest amount of calories you can. And hopefully in your off season you've built more muscle, which means that your metabolism is going to be higher anyway, and that just puts you in such a good starting point, because if you've been someone who's, I don't know, been dieting a lot before a show anyway, you need to have spent a really good amount of time not dieting. I mean, for a competition, 6 to 12 months, definitely you should be out of a diet. And to start on those calories is just a recipe for disaster. Like Yandu was saying, like for women, hormones, I shudder to think what this is gonna, it might not impact this lady now, but for sure that is going to catch up with her. Even 5 weeks on that is a massive stress on your body. Downregulate all your hormones, your thyroid, which is what controls your metabolism. Because if you're not eating enough carbs and you're stressed, that is going to downregulate the thyroid. And your sex hormones, your progesterone, your estrogen, your testosterone, those are all going to be affected, not just from stress, your body recognizing you are in a very stressful time, which diet is like a famine, and your body will respond accordingly. And we need fat. You need fat to make your hormones, and 12 grams of fat ain't cutting nothing. And it's just it just mind boggles me. And the thing with hormones is that a lot of the issues can come out later, because especially when it comes to sort of ovulation, because it takes 100 days for one of your follicles to go to ovulation. So whatever happened 100 days ago is going to affect you now. So there's so many repercussions from being on such a insane diet. And it's just sad, because it does not have to be that way. If you have a good coach, who's also going to control your cardio, because I know, Andy, you were on 2 hours of cardio at the end, but that's not from the beginning. And it's not sustainable. It's not healthy. And as you saw, it didn't give any results anyway, because if your body is so stressed like that, your metabolism is going to adapt. And yeah, you're just not going to see any progress. So it's a lose-lose situation.
Yeah, you may lose weight, and I've always said, if you stick someone on a desert island and you starve them, they'll lose weight. But it's not. It's at the detriment of health. Also, you just don't look better.
No.
Everything. Having that much protein, you can't hold muscle volume. Eating away at muscle. You can't fix the muscle. It's just getting eaten to make up the calorie. As we said, you have that muscle breakdown to feed the energy requirements. So you end up just looking smaller. Your physique won't change much in the way it looks. You just be smaller. And outside, I always say to female competitors, bikini isn't about being flat and shredded. It's about being full and round. It's about being lean but actually remaining full. You want muscles to remain full, so you need carbs and you need muscle. But take out competitors, women, when they look online and they see a physique they want to emulate with theirs, they don't realise actually you've got to build muscle to have that toned look. People ask, I want to be toned. Well, toned just means you're lean with muscle. You've got enough muscle. You're not shredded, but you've got a little bit of muscle there. And for that, you need to build muscle initially, or maintain the muscle you have built. If you don't have enough protein and your energy balance isn't right, so you don't have enough carbohydrates to use as fuel, then if you don't have enough carbohydrates to use as fuel, you're going to start using the fat that you're taking in, right? So that 12 grams of fat suddenly goes really quickly on just moving around, not on hormone repair, and your hair, skin goes to crap, things like this. Then the body's like, I'm just going to start breaking down, and it won't necessarily break down your fat reserve. Like, we might need those because we're pretty stressed, so we're going to keep on to those. So we're just going to start breaking down muscle because it's easier at the time of stress. And you just get watery. You can start retaining water. You can just look. You're just going to look worse. You're going to, your scale weight may be going down, but what's actually looking at you doesn't look great. And I've seen this plenty of times with female general population clients where they're like, oh yeah, I did I cut out one whole food group, or I did juicing for a month, and worse for it. So that's sort of what we turn. I always say this to guys who don't eat enough protein: do you want to be skinny fat? Because that's what happens. It's skinny fat. You get lighter, but you just get a little bit softer.
Yeah, body composition doesn't improve or change. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what it's about. It's not about position. And that's what it's about. And health. Keeping your health up there whilst changing your body composition. And I know sometimes with bodybuilding we've got to suffer the health a little bit, but it shouldn't be the whole. You should be healthy for most part of prep. The last couple of weeks when you start depleting, it's probably the only time really when health takes a backseat.
Yeah.
Because you actually get deplete, drop carbs, or manage your fats. You drop carbs out, you still got to balance things up a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, was she experiencing any sort of menstrual cycle problems?
As I said, she had really bad cramps to the point where she had to go to hospital.
Leg cramps, sorry.
No,
period.
No.
Well,
the point where she was hospitalized, like she couldn't do anything. She had to go to hospital.
That
get fit.
That is the number one warning sign. My gosh, like, because your hormones are so out of balance. I mean, that's wow, that's just scary. And I mean, a lot of women do lose their cycle when they compete. And I mean, some women are different. Some will go below a certain body fat and their body's just like, no. It's survival over reproduction. If your body senses you're in a stressed environment, it will shut down essentially ovulation. But a lot of women do keep theirs.
But you shouldn't, even competing, you shouldn't, that shouldn't be your expectation.
No.
Right? There's a difference between, you should be able to do most of your prep with still having a normal menstrual cycle. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, that scares a lot of women and probably coaches as well, because with menstrual cycle comes changing hormone balances, weight shifting, and in fact, and that's why some coaches, bad coaches, have told people to go on like birth control to stop periods during prep, just because it makes their life easier.
Wow.
Sadly.
Wow, that is horrendous. That's going to compound everything when they.
But that's quite common. That is quite common in the world. Coaches tell go on birth control to essentially stop your period because then we can just sort of control the factors a lot easier. It's not something I would ever do, and I had clients who had periods up to show day almost.
Yeah.
It takes some manipulating, but keep them healthy. As long as and that happens more when you do a slow prep, because it's like a gradual fat loss thing. It's not like suddenly dropping calories and stressing the body. It's trying to get there. There is challenges to obviously menstrual cycles, but I'd always rather it than someone on the opposite end. Because when show's just a show. You've got your whole life outside of that 10 minutes for a plastic trophy.
It will.
As fun as it is, and it's great. It's great. You've got to go on. Got to get back into your life.
Big time.
And life's more important. So
I was saying, like, what you do now is going to affect your hormonal, your reproductive health in the future, and it can take months for humans to kind of rebalance.
Yeah.
And it really, already her having such bad cramps that she has to be hospitalized your period is a vital sign of health. You can tell if something is not right in your body if you're having cramps that you need to go to hospital, or if you're missing a cycle, or if you've got extremely heavy bleeding, or for her that sounds like some serious hormonal imbalance going on there. Probably just easy.
Yeah, it is, as I said. It's not something you should just expect to happen.
No,
it's not right. It's one of those things where I think women in general don't realise that and we look at this a lot. People that start understanding thyroid health and thinking if you lose weight, you affect your effect of deregulation of the thyroid, how that then affects estrogen and testosterone, progesterone levels. They don't realise that it affects, and those things have knock-on effects. Thyroid, and even we can't look at hormones don't work in isolation. Everything's linked to everything, and then there's mood, proper mood hormones and cortisol, and then you don't start sleeping, and then your dopamine receptors are off, and you start getting depressed and anxious, and you see this in female competitors, anxiety levels. Getting towards a show can make you anxious anyway. And we talk about prep brain because you're on low calories, and that's basically because your hormones are in the gutter. That you start suffering, and it's all triggering from stress and stuff. So, why make your life way harder than it needs to be by trying to rush a prep?
Yeah, I think,
And then especially when getting a coach that clearly doesn't know what they're doing. And the coach in question was a competitor themselves, decent level competitor, as in competing internationally and doing well, but it doesn't mean they actually know what they're talking about when it comes to coaching.
Yeah, because this
is what people got to realise that they don't pick a bodybuilding career.
you broke up a bit.
The internet is bad today.
Repeat. You said something bodybuilding.
I said you should never pick a coach based off their bodybuilding career.
Yes.
It doesn't demonstrate knowledge. It doesn't. They've got a coach coaching them, and sometimes they will just reuse that information, but that's specific to them. Also, or things like that in the bigger equation, like some of these, and then you'd start trying to do the same thing with some natural women. You just don't know the factors behind everyone. And the reality is, they could be the best bodybuilder in the world. It doesn't mean they know how to coach.
Because you find most bodybuilders are. It's more like there's the coach who teaches them, and then they just do. They just have the genetics. The coach does all the work. So it's like you said, it's copy paste.
Exactly.
Prep diet, and find some of the competitors. There's also the drug factor. So they're adding hormones externally. So they're not really feeling the same way the natural women are feeling during prep, because you're on low calories, you have extra hormones from exogenous hormones, and you just don't understand the process the other women are going to, because you're not used to individualizing anyone's training. You just copy paste what your coach gives you to the women you're coaching, and I'm guessing you'll be happy with the ones who are successful. Then you'll just dig deeper holes for the ones who are not, because you're thinking, you're just not working too hard, but it's just your process isn't for everyone.
Yeah, and it's
bad. And that's the thing.
Sorry, I was just going to say that, even worse as a woman, giving that
man.
When you think you would know a little bit about...
but this is the thing. People just assume that what works for them works for everyone. And just because you've got a female coach doesn't mean she understands female health. And the other part of that is, you should be able to ask your coach questions of why they do everything. It gets a bit annoying as a coach if someone asks you questions about everything. I've had this, but I always answer still regardless. It's like, you go, just keep hitting you up with questions. But I'd rather than not ask questions. I want people to actually learn and understand.
And I guess,
but
you get questions you've probably had, but you don't really know about, and it makes you want to go and learn more about, rather than just tell the client, just do what I say and stop.
I always say to a client, ask the question. If I don't know, I will find someone who actually knows. And I'll get an answer for it.
And
I can learn. We don't have all the answers. Luckily, it's easy. I know enough people just to be able to reach out and ask people who've got way more knowledge than me. And that's kind of what you need to do. And the fact is, a lot of coaches just say, do this. Don't worry about why. Just do it and you'll be fine. And, and really, I think as a client, you've got responsibility to your own health to find out why you're doing things.
Big time. I think that's such a good point, that, you as the client, should do your research before. Like, we've done a whole episode on like what, you should be looking for if you want to do a bodybuilding competition. It's not just something you wake up and decide to do, because, like we were saying earlier, you actually need to have some muscle. And I think a lot of women who compete in bikini, are not naturally very muscular, you know, because that is the category. I mean, some have to downsize for it, but most have to work pretty hard. And that doesn't just come from being in a calorie deficit. You need that muscle. So you need to think, I would say, at least a year ahead, preferably more, so that you do an off season with a coach would be great if it's your first time. And then you have time to do this nice, long, slow diet to see how your body responds, if you need to make any changes so that you're not stressing out as you're getting closer to the finishing line. And it's, yes, like we've said, your health will probably suffer a bit at the end, but it doesn't have to too much. So you might as well get a coach who knows what they're doing. And again, like we were saying, not just because they've done well. Like, honestly, that is such a poor way to choose a coach. And, you know, some of these, you know, coaches who've done well in bodybuilding, you know, it is often purely, well, not purely, but 90% genetics. It really is. And, you know, they could be eating whatever and probably look good. It's so important to keep that in mind.
But like, I always think like Ronnie Coleman. I always think Ronnie Coleman, 8 times Mr. Olympia. I wouldn't ask Ronnie Coleman for coaching advice. Like, he doesn't have a clue. Like, he did what he was told to do, and he's always said that he did it to the letter. He worked hard, great work ethic, something we can all copy. Work ethic, great. He held down a job nearly his whole career as a policeman, and still hit his training sessions and at his meals. But he was a genetic freak as well.
Yeah, very good at following.
Yeah. That's why you don't, you know, look at, you know, don't just even look at coaches' clients. I always say that's a good indicator, but fact is every client's different.
Yeah.
Have a chat with a coach, find out what their find out what their sort of knowledge base is, have a good chat, you know, do your research before then standing when speak to a coach. Make sure we've got more of an understanding than you.
Yeah.
And, you know, it, of course, money comes into the fact, into your decision making, but don't just go for the cheaper option because, you know, and they look good. Like, it might be worth spending that much more money on someone who actually knows what they're doing. So just another thing.
But on the flip side, don't go for the most expensive option either. Just because someone's costs more doesn't mean they're better either.
Yes.
So it's try and make sure, that they've actually got some knowledge. See, and I always say, look at content on socials. Is it just, here's my client being lost weight? Or are we pushing out educational stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I actually think I'd rather be coached by someone who, is an educator as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, here's a meal plan, do what you're told, take a load of drugs, good to go.
And I think nowadays, I think social media is a good CV. It's like you said, just go and check. Do they take pictures of themselves, just them training? And like you said, just here's client A, 2 months later, client A, 2 weeks later, like what happens in 2 weeks? But like, even if they're putting that transformation, read the story under. Do they detail the process? Do they make you understand how it happened? Or is it just, A, we were this, B, we're good, sign up for my coaching? It's a bit, just use social media as a place to look at a CV. It's like a CV, and the coach is telling you, this is who I work with, this is what I know, this is the progress I've had, and etc. So
one thing is, don't reach out to coach first.
Yeah.
If you see someone, reach out to them and ask about the process.
Mm-hmm.
How long? Because sometimes there's coaches online that use photos of people who've now left them, and they want on show bad. They left them, but they look good on show day, so that photo gets used. But the reality is, they would never work with them again.
Yeah. And I remember we said in another episode how, you know, it's so important to work with, especially after a competition, work with your coach after the competition. Because, you know, that, again, if you have been on 700 calories and you compete and you will go insane afterwards. Like, you know, if you have no coach and you've been on such low calories, you are going to probably go on a binge fest. And, you know, your body is primed. It is absolutely primed to put on fat in that phase afterwards. So, you know, working with a coach, a good coach for that reverse diet period afterwards, I think is really important mentally as well. You know, someone who's experienced.
Yeah, I agree with you. I had a client, she competed in December, did great. But afterwards, she was like, "Oh, I just don't want to track food. I want to do this." And actually, we put her back on plan a couple of weeks ago because actually, everything was suffering. She was, she had a period of, it was a show in, and she wasn't tracking. She hadn't been tracking, which is fine, but she also wasn't truly intuitively. She was just eating for the sake of it. But like, it wasn't like, she looks fine, but the mental health side of things, she feels like super less organized, less motivated to do the training stuff. So it's not. Yeah, I love that sort of making the most of a rebound phase, days off, non-tracking. Even don't track. Maybe track that first week and then just try and be intuitive, but like within reason. Don't go out and eat ice cream every day just because you can, or I'm going to eat a pizza every night, because I haven't had one in 12. The whole point is, the longer your prep is, the less you go without. The shorter you leave your prep, the harder that prep becomes.
Yep.
Can become, and it becomes that famine and feast thing where you've got, suddenly you go without, everything's restricted. Once that veil's removed and that barrier's removed, you're suddenly unrestricted and you go, completely the other way. So it's the longer you can do your prep and keep certain, have refeed days and have, I keep most of my clients up till within 2 weeks, 3 weeks of the show with at least one refeed day. So they don't then feel like they're missing out, I'd rather go a little bit lower during the week and have a nice refeed day. As long as it, and I always say, unless I find out they are like purely focused on that refeed day, it becomes like a big mental thing where they go, "Oh, it's a refeed day coming up," and the whole week bases around. They're up at like, it's turning midnight. I can't wait. I couldn't eat crap, because refeed day isn't about just eating crap food. It's about eating slightly higher calories, higher fats, especially. I was like, we can push the fats up, we can push the carbohydrates up. Protein stays the same. But it doesn't mean go crazy. It's like, I always say close to a show, eat the same foods, just add a little bit more fats, eat more carbohydrates with every meal, and
Yeah, and I think
that way. But earlier, you may do. Go on.
I was just going to say, even more important for women to have those refeed days, and if you can, diet breaks, just to help. I mean, the metabolic downregulation is going to happen regardless, but you can mitigate that with refeed days, because the increase, especially in carbs, that really helps support the thyroid. And again, for women, very important. And the same, keeping those fats up, that really helps with your other hormones, and just giving your body a bit of a break from stress. So that's where the diet breaks are really good, and so if you've given yourself that's bringing your calories back up to your new predicted maintenance for at least a week. And that is just such a great way to take stress off your body, restore your hormone markers a bit, again, help with your thyroid health, and give you a mental break too. Because if you've given yourself, I say even 12 weeks, you wouldn't be doing a diet break in that. You know, if you've just got 12 weeks to especially you would be doing a diet break there. So that's why just, you know, again, like when you're talking to your coach about the process, you need to hear them mention like a nice long slow prep, refeeds, really important, and diet breaks. There are all those good words in there. Otherwise, I would definitely run for the hills. And, you know, we were just talking before we started, like none of us give meal plans. I mean, Leon is the only one who's actually certified to give, legally allowed to give a meal plan. He still doesn't. So that's another thing to watch for. Like, unless you are a registered dietitian or a certified nutritionist, and not just a nutritionist, you've not just done a certificate online, like actually you've gone to university for nutrition. They're the only ones who are allowed to actually give you a meal plan. Us, we may be very knowledgeable, but we're still legally not allowed to give you one. And we don't like to, because it just makes you a robot. You know, you're not learning anything. You're not learning about portions. You're not learning about the nutritional value of food. It makes you even more kind of rigid, because you're like, oh, well, I don't know what to do if I can't have X food. So we don't like to do that. We give guidelines and we'll help you, you know, figure out what you need to eat. And that's the same for your prep, because you can still fit in foods that you enjoy up to a point. I mean, you will have to get a bit stricter towards the end. And then we were saying like maybe in the last week or so, your coach can give you more of a structured plan to follow, because you know, at that point, you're probably a bit of a zombie. You're like, I just want to be told what to do. And I think that's fine. And it does get a bit more specific. But if someone is giving you a plan that's telling you to eat whatever it was, like 50 grams of oats, broccoli, 8 strawberries from the get-go, you know, that is A, illegal. And B, it's not helpful to you either. So
agreed.
Watch out for those.
Yeah, I think we were talking with Andy, and it's like it's where the hierarchy, where from the bottom one is most important, is nutrition, I guess, training, cardio, supplementation. But seems like a lot of the meal plans we're getting, it's the other way around. It's supplementation and cardio comes first. So you have all these supplements thrown at you for prep, your fat burners, and then 2 hours of cardio, and then you don't even know how training looks like, because you ask the person, how do you train? And it's just usually very high volume, just to get you almost tired. And I mean, you're already in prep, you're going to be tired. Your food's low, your glycogen, everything.
Yeah.
And then nutrition is almost last, which is the most important when it comes to being in season, because you're just preserving muscle and trying to get lean and preserve a nice body composition for the stage. So it's a bit, I think a lot of people need to unlearn a lot of things.
Yeah. And
yeah. I was going to say, on that meal plan, they were being told to also take fat burners, CLA. The first thing I did was like scrap that sort of stuff. It's rubbish. It's like a fat burner is just essentially spice. You know, a fat burner is spicy caffeine. It's KN and you know, shit like that with a high dose of caffeine. You can use it as a pre-workout if you want, but there's a problem with like when you're on such low calories, you become dependent on caffeine to give you any energy.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore, your digestion suffers, because caffeine does affect digestion and it affects adrenals. So that's also a knock-on effect for the hormones. So, you know, and then CLA, big waste of time, you know. L-carnitine, big waste of time unless you're injecting it. You know, all L-carnitine does nothing. So, yeah, a lot of people, it's like, if the coach is relying, you know, telling you to take all these supplements from the get-go, no. The only ones I ever say is take omega oils or fish oils, because one, that, you know, great for your health generally, but also, you know, especially when you're, you know, in a depleted state, they'll you know, become really useful. A bit of protein powder to make sure you hit your protein targets, And, pretty much that's it. Because, creatine's the other one I tend to use more for, not necessarily in prep, but like, for general health, brain health as well as, the muscle energy side. But, that even creatine I don't class as essential. The only one I do class as essential is those, fish and omega oils because people aren't getting them enough. And vitamin D often if people work in an office.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. Yeah.
I mean, I would say, if you, for women, you might want other supplements to help you because, when calories get so low, you might not have access to so many micronutrients. You might need extra supplements to support your hormones there. But again, like with that kind of meal plan, there's no information about nutrient timing, which we've talked about, which becomes when you're in a deficit because you're still trying to preserve your muscle mass. So you want your sessions to be as intense as they can. You're trying to time your carbs around your workouts, things like that to just maximize everything as good as you possibly can whilst in a deficit. So on a plan like that, there's nothing. There's I would say zero thought to carb timing or anything like that, and that can really play a big role. And the same with supplements. I think Jen said, like when you start with the basics, and then as you go along, like if you're suffering certain sort of hormonal symptoms, maybe some signs of dysfunction, you could be like, okay, let's either like, okay, let's do some refeeds, like some 2 or 3 days back to back refeeds, see if that helps, or we just need to increase carbs a bit. Some supplements, I mean, ones that do help the cycle of magnesium, making sure you're getting in your B vitamins, the omega-3s are really important, so again, making sure that with the fats that you're eating, you're going more for the unsaturated fats.
You go to those essentials.
In that plan, the fats were literally coming from, I would say, the oats and like trace fats from the meat. And I think in one day they had like
chicken,
an egg yolk. It's like there's so many nutritional deficiencies there.
And that's the thing. Your plan shouldn't rely on supplements from day one. And as you said something right there, is only start taking supplements when you're deficient in things. This is like Dr. Dean always says when he checks your blood. He says don't even take a multivitamin unless you're vitamin deficient anyway. Because, you want to keep a sort of that homeostasis, that balance of your vitamins. And if you're already taking anything in. But the fact is, with that meal plan is you would be so deficient. I wouldn't even know where to start on the supplementation because you'd be so deficient. It's like if you're not careful, you'll overdo it on one thing.
Yeah.
So the only way to combat that is to increase food and make it good food. Lots of vegetables, lots of essential oils, good quality protein sources. And as I said, when I took it on, look, focus on lean protein choices, but adding back in olive oil and nut oils back into your meals. Let's get the fats back up there. On you slightly, she had her last refeed day yesterday. As in, I kept the refeed day in, and she's now, up to the end. I was like, enjoy that, and she had bread and things, and she was quite happy. A bit of peanut butter, but because actually, I've said you will not be, I can guarantee this, you will not be at your best ever look. We're gonna have to do other shows where we can do it properly. We'll have to come back out of this stage, rebuild you up. But because it's your first show, it still will be your best look you've ever had. But what we want to do is use this as what actually needs to happen in the future. You've been miscoached, but let's get keep this a health priority and get you to stage best you can, as healthy as you can.
Yeah.
And
And again, for women, like, I know it's extremely expensive to get your blood work done here, but you can still do it and claim it through insurance. Like, again, for this client, I would say it'd be good that she did get her blood work done, like maybe after, like a month or
Yeah, she's having some tests, I think.
after the competition, just to make sure, because even 5 weeks on that insaneness and going to cramps, like there is dysfunction already there. And I mean, you've helped to stop it, but you know, carrying on being in a deficit is not gonna, you know, help it. And it really,
No, it's not.
It takes so much time to yeah, like we've said, to rebalance that. So, you know, if you are a competitor, you know, you've got to think about getting your blood work done, and you know, then afterwards really prioritizing your health, because if that's not in place, you're never going to look your best. You really won't. So
No.
yeah, always
No,
remember.
that's the thing, you know. If you start trashing your hormones, yeah, you need to spend almost double the amount of time you spend trashing your hormones to get back up to an equilibrium. Well, like it'd be, say, you know, say a 10-week prep in total, or 12-week prep. 24 weeks, you know, climbing up to maintenance, holding maintenance by 24 weeks, then go into a surplus for a little bit longer before coming down again. Just, you know, we need to keep you at maintenance or what is in place. Because even if you start adding food, that can have its own stresses and digestive issues. So, you know, you want to get to be in a healthy place before you push either way.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a
Also,
period of maintenance.
Also, yeah, I think before we end, I think most people, not only women, also men, need to understand that there's no magic number in like a 12-week prep. No one says you have to do a 12-week.
Yeah.
I don't know what the obsession is with, because I've just worked with a lot of competitors, so I will speak on behalf of competitors. There's 12-week prep is not a magic number. No, it doesn't say you will. I know most people do 12 weeks because they're scared of dieting down and getting into a structure. And this happens mostly because of, like we said, a bit, let me not call it yoga, but unstructured off season, where when it comes to diet or diet prep, it's like day one, you've just cut out everything and started afresh. That's why I think a lot of people do 10 to 12 weeks to try and
Yeah.
not a magic number. There's actually
No, but I think it came from.
Yeah. No, I was saying in most
Sorry.
it's a small formula that gives you a range on, you know, how long your prep should be. And that is another way of individualizing it, especially if you're working alone. But if you're working with someone, a coach or a mentor, you learn there's no magic in 12-week prep.
Well, this is the thing. I think people learn that from the pros back in the day. Even pros now are extending their preps.
Yeah.
But and people don't realise, like, you know, the days of Jay Cutler who do a 12-week prep is, you know, these guys have a lot more muscle than you.
Oh, major.
So it's easier for them to get lean. They can just pull out food. Like, first 4 weeks of prep for them is just pulling out shit food.
Yeah.
And they lose weight, they drop it. You know, they're on a lot of exogenous hormones. And, you know, it makes maintaining the muscle a lot easier when you're on exogenous hormones. So what we got to do, because they got so much muscle, they're burning a lot of calories naturally. So they're probably burning 5,000 calories a day. So when we go down to 4,000 calories, that's a 1,000 calorie deficit.
Easy.
You know, it's not, it's, you know, when you're smaller, you've got to take longer because actually, you know, you don't want to go from, say, 2,500 calories to 1,500 on day one. You know, because it doesn't give you room to progress. You know, just you're going to damage yourself. So, you know, you need to give yourself longer. I say for most people, you know, you shouldn't be thinking any less than 20. That's not a magic number, you know. You know, it's not guaranteed, but you know, 20 weeks gives you generally enough time to change things up.
And I mean, that's 5 months, people.
And I think people.
That's 5 months.
Yeah.
So,
When Andy is saying 20 weeks, I guess people are thinking it's not 20 weeks on 600 calories from day one.
Yeah, no. God.
It's a slow. It's a slow wave just going down and getting you into shape slowly with the same foods you've been using.
If you've been on off season, that first part, about 20 weeks, is just going to be at maintenance before going down again.
Yeah.
And that's important, especially for women. You just don't cut out.
No.
Yeah.
Are very, as we've said before to men, you have to be very, very careful, and every woman is so different. You know, some are more resilient than others. But I would say that, you know, when we put up that horrendous 700 calorie meal plan, the amount of women who DM me who are not competitors, who say, oh my gosh, I was on that exact same diet. And these are Gen Pop women. They're not competitors. So if your coach is giving you someone who just wants to lose fat, you're not doing a competition, you do not ever need to get that extreme. It is never worth it. You know, if you have a competition or something like that, you know, it will get a bit hard at the end, but nothing like that. So if your coach gives you that or something that looks like that, I would say even if it's under 1,500 calories from the get-go, you know, question that coach, being like, you know, why would you start on 1,500? Because if you are starting on 1,500, you're probably not even at your maintenance calories anyway, and a diet is not going to work for you. You need to spend time building your calories up to your close to your predicted maintenance. So always question the coach. There is enough information on, you know, social media to help guide you, this podcast to guide you, like, what kind of calories should you be on? Like, are you actually ready to go into fat loss? You know, and fitness and health are very different things. If you are a bodybuilder, you need to make sure you've done a good off season. You need to make sure you're ready to, you know, commit to a 5-month prep. You need to be prepared mentally. You need to be prepared for afterwards, and you need to get yourself a good coach. So there is all the information out there for you to make a good, informed choice about your decision and a coach to work with. You know, don't be lazy and be like, I want a meal plan, because if that's what you get, you know, that is sadly your fault. And if you don't run and you're feeling like crap and you're going to hospital because you've got such bad menstrual cramps, you know, you need to wake up and be like, this is not right.
Yeah, it's
like with Gen Pop clients, I always say, what happened with your weight gain? You know, it's like, I used to be athletic when I was younger, whatever, and then over time I put on weight. Well, listen to what you've just said. Over time you've put on weight. Now we've got to reverse that. So you didn't put on weight in, you know, suddenly in a few weeks. You suddenly added a lot of body fat. It's a gradual process. And the reverse of that, losing body fat has to be a gradual process. It has to be, you know, the opposite. You know, you can't do things just overnight. You don't gain fat overnight. It's over a consistent period of being in a surplus over time, right? Mixed with, you know, different, you know, health issues. Flip it on its head, you know, if you're a General Pop client, you know, it's a long time learning over time, adjusting. You know, we could be talking years, a year to be, but that's the best way to do it for health, because, you know, you got to do it, as we said, like a staircase. So, you know, a bit of fat loss, maintenance, fat loss, diet breaks. You know, so you're just not getting hammered. And, you know, and I encourage people, a lot of my deloads and diet breaks, if someone goes on holiday, I say, don't worry about training. Do as much training as you want to do for your mental health and fun. Be active, do your swimming in the pool with kids, but eat, you know, within reason. You know, if you're on the coast, they always say, crack on with all the seafood, enjoy that, you know. You're not, just stay active, you know, have some ice cream, you know, have a diet break, you know. You're not, if I've done my job properly, they've learned enough up to that part where I know they're not going to go crazy, but you understand energy balance. And that's my job as a coach, making sure they can go on holiday and enjoy themselves still, and come back from holiday losing weight. Go, how did that happen? As well, we've been dieting for a while, cortisol levels build up, you've now de-stressed, your digestion's probably improved, and you've been active. As simple as that.
Yeah, and I mean, again, so different if you are doing a bodybuilding competition, because you probably won't have that wiggle room to, go on holiday and be so flexible. So again, you need to plan ahead. You have to commit to however long your prep is going to be so that you can do it to the best of your ability, like get it done, and try and keep healthy as possible. Just remember, your body is so interconnected, like your gut health to your mental health to your adrenals to your hormones to your thyroid. Like an impact on one is going to impact the other, and these have repercussions down the line. So what you're doing in your prep is going to affect you later on, so you might as well make your prep as healthy as you can. And being on 12 grams of fat and sub 80 grams of carbs is not going to do that. You are going to have some serious health problems down the line, some hormonal imbalances. You're going to spend a lot of time and probably money, health. So I think to sum up, like, do your research, find yourself a good coach. And as we're always saying, if you have an understanding of the basics, you would look at that meal plan from the get-go and just tell your coach to go stuff that in their face.
Yeah.
Tell your coach to do it themselves.
Yeah, exactly. You go and eat 8 strawberries and 3 egg whites for dinner. I mean, it is horrendous. No, but honestly, there is enough information on all of our IG pages on this podcast that you'll understand the basics of nutrition and know that that is such a bad idea. And if you are unsure, you can always send us a message and we can or not.
That's it.
Yeah, gents, any closing comments apart from the terribleness of that plan?
Yeah, maybe just one note. Don't waste your money on fat burners.
Yeah, don't waste your money on yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, true. This podcast.
You are one thing I say is, as a client, you do have a responsibility to your own health.
Yep, big time.
That looks terrible. Just walk away. Yes, you may lose some money because you probably coach, but your health comes first.
Yeah,
definitely.
100%. Like, health first. Health first, everyone.
All right.
Well, yeah, hope that was useful. And of course, if you do have any questions, we are always happy to answer them. And we'll see you in the next episode.